Hallelujah. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Marcia Austin, are you online for opening prayer? Hallelujah. Marcia, you online? Hallelujah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, so we hear you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Praise God. Father, we thank you, oh God, for such a time as this that you have given us, oh God. Father, we are so grateful that we could come into your presence to praise and worship you, oh God, to lift your name on high, Father. Father, you are truly worthy of all the adoration, of all the praise, oh God. Father, you are so good to us, and we are so grateful, Father. Father, I thank you, God, for your word which you have given us, oh God, which is life, which is food, Father God, which leads us and guides us, Father God. Thank you for showing us how to hold on to your word, oh God. Thank you for our Pastor Israel, whom you placed in our midst to teach us, Father God, to give us your word, Father God, insights, Father God, to show us what we need to do, oh God, and for reminding us, Father God, that you are God and that you are our Savior and that you would lead and guide us, Father. Father, thank you for forgiving us, Father God, for giving us a new start, a new beginning, Father God. We praise and worship you, oh God, for we are truly grateful. Father, if there's any in our midst that may need a touch or hearing from you, a word, anything that we need, Father, we know as we believe in our heart, Father God, and as we trust you, it is done and it is finished. Father, we thank you again for your goodness and your mercy. In the name of Yeshua we pray. Amen.
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 Hi everybody, I'm Bill Cloud and welcome once again to On This Day. It was on this day in the year 444 BCE that Ezra and Nehemiah convened the Jewish community in Jerusalem in order to purge a contingent of pagan strangers from their midst and to renew the ancient covenant. We read of this in Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 1. Now in the 24th day of this month, the children of Israel were assembled with fasting and with sackcloth and earth upon them. And the seed of Israel separated themselves from all strangers and stood and confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. What this demonstrates to me is that from time to time, there are things that have to be purged from our lives, things that they go unnoticed, the little foxes that spoil the vine. These things accumulate, and then they're brought to our attention, and then they have to be purged from us. And quite frankly, sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it's quite painful, as a matter of fact. I'm thinking about, it's kind of a different setting altogether, but I'm thinking about how Abraham was really compelled to send Hagar and to send Ishmael away. And I could argue that in reality, Ishmael should have never happened. Ishmael was the son of the flesh. Isaac was the son of promise. And it pained Abraham very desperately to have to send his son away. And there's no doubt that in what we just read in Nehemiah, that there were relationships that were broken. There were people that it was a very emotional time, I am sure. So again, all of that is to say that there are things that we allow to accumulate in our lives, things that if we let them continue, they will disrupt our lives and they'll distance us from the Creator, and perhaps even cause us to go out and to follow other philosophies and ideologies, what have you. But again, when He brings these things to our attention and He calls upon us, we should purge them from our lives. There was a gentleman that years ago, he was a songwriter, and he sang for me a song that he had written, and it was called Say Goodbye to Me. Because that's what this is all about. We have to, at times, say goodbye to me. That is what I want, what I desire, the things that I want to accumulate in my life. The Creator calls upon us to say goodbye to me, to let ourselves die, to purge ourselves of these things that would place an impediment between us and between Him, so that the relationship with our Father would not grow. It sometimes is a painful process, but it's a necessary process, and it is in our best interest. So the thoughts I'll leave you with today are, I know in my life there are things that I've allowed to accumulate, and I need to purge them from my lives. And I'm sure the same can be said of you. And so let's call upon the Father in heaven to bring these things to our attention and to help us to identify them, and then to give us the strength and the know-how of how to remove these things and how to draw closer to Him. Thanks for joining me today. I hope to see you again tomorrow on this day. Until then, shalom.
While we're waiting for Jenny to come up, I want to make a comment on that I saw. All right, if we went to Ezra chapter 8 just for a moment, okay, because that's setting the tone behind what Bill was talking about this day, okay, for this particular day. And it talks about, in verse 1, now these are the chief of their fathers, and this is the genealogy of them that went up with me from Babylon in the reign of Artaxerxes the king. Okay, Artaxerxes the king. So, Ezra leads the people from Babylon into Israel, right? So, by the time we get to like chapter 9 of Ezra, all right, they're in Israel. All right, can everyone understand that? Very important to understand that. Thank you, sweetheart. Okay. So therefore, when they discover that the Levites, a lot of the leaders, had married pagans, where were they at? They were in the land. Now, in other words, they returned with him, with their families, back to the land, right? Okay, and what did Ezra and both Nehemiah immediately make them do? Do you remember?
Divorce.
They had to divorce their wives, okay, and because they could not come into the land. Now, here's one thing to understand, why it is so important to study the Bible historically, as well as culturally, as well as biblically. Because this is something that I think people forget. Most of the Jews did not return back into the land.
Yes, right.
Most of them stayed in Babylon. Did you ever think of why?
Big city, like.
Okay, but think of another reason why? Their families.
Yeah.
Okay, think about it. What Bill said. Okay, this is a time when they had to separate. If they were going to be in the land, they had to separate themselves from pagan things. Now, with that thought, most of them chose to stay in the land. Rather stay in Babylon.
Yes.
To stay in Babylon. You have those that will choose to stay in Babylon, okay, no matter what. The compromise of Babylon, no matter what. You understand what I'm saying? When you make that decision to, as we say, go into the land, go into Torah, you cannot hold on to your pagan ways and still be in Torah. That's why the Lord gave me this morning. Tell them, stop trying to make it like a church. Okay, I have a message that I have to give another ministry. Stop trying to make it like a church. You cannot be in the land and hold on to your pagan ways at the same time.
Amen.
Okay? All right? Ooh, okay.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Healing through prayer. My word promises that all things whatsoever you shall ask in prayer, believing you shall receive. All things includes healing. My word establishes the possibility of your healing in many ways. One of the ways I have established is through the anointing with oil by my servants. I have promised that the prayer of faith will save the sick, and it will also forgive your sin. But heed my word that tells you to confess your trespasses to one another, and pray for one another, that you may be healed. The effective, fervent prayer of a righteous man will avail much. Are you seeking to be healed? Come to me with a humble heart, confess your sins, stand firm in your faith in my power, and wait in confidence for your healing to take place. Father, we have come before you with a humble heart, in need of your healing touch. We confess our sins before you and accept your gift of forgiveness through your Son, Yeshua. We will not be afraid of the spirit of sickness and infirmity that may be present in our bodies, for we stand in faith in the power of your Holy Spirit and command the mountain of sickness to be removed from our lives. Our confidence in your power to complete our healing is firm, and we wait patiently for you to respond to us with healing. Amen.
Amen.
Healing through the gift of healing. The presence of my Holy Spirit in your life will manifest through you in the power of the giftings he has placed within you. My Spirit has placed his gifts within you for the profit of all. Therefore, exercise your gifting through his power. I have provided my healing for many through the gift of healing. If my Spirit has given it to you, it is because you are a part of my body, and all the parts of my body must work together. If one member suffers, all suffer with it. Or if one member is honored, all the members rejoice with it. Therefore, look with compassion upon your brothers and sisters, who need a healing touch from me through your gift of healing. Honor me by honoring them, and offer my healing virtue to them by exercising your gifting. Father, we have committed our lives to you, and have welcomed the presence of your Holy Spirit into our lives. Reveal to us the spiritual giftings that you have for us, and help us to have faith in the power and authority of your Spirit, to reach out and exercise our gifts for the profit of our brothers and sisters in your body. Reveal your power at work in us through the gift of healing, and let us offer your healing touch to others through our gifts. Amen.
Amen.
Stephanie?
Shalom Aleichem. 2 Peter 3:3-14. Knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers, walking after their own lust, and saying, where is the promise of the coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of God the heavens were of old, the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. Excuse me. But the heavens and the earth, which are now, by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire, against the day of judgment and sedition of ungodly men. But, beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness, but is long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also, and the works that are therein, shall be burned up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of God, wherein the heavens shall be on fire and be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat? Nevertheless, we according to his promise look for the new heavens and the new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. Wherefore, beloved, seeing as you look for such things, be diligent, that they may be found in him, yet you may be found in him, peace, without spot, and blameless. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom. Shalom. I'll be reading from John 1 through 18. The title is The Word Became Flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shined in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. He was not that light, but was sent to bear witness of that light. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made by him, and the world knew him not. He came unto his own, and his own received him not. But as many as received him, to them he gave power to become the sons of God, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the world was made flesh, and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. John bare witness of him, and cried, saying, This was he of whom I spake. He said, Cometh after me, is preferred before me, for he was before me. And of his fullness have all we received, and grace for grace. For the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Yeshua Messiah. No man had seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, which is in the bosom of the Father, he had declared him. End of the reading. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Revelation 22, 1 through 5. And shoot for me a pure river of the water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God of the Lamb. In the midst of the streets of it, and of either side of the river, there were trees of life, which bear 12 manner of fruit, and yield her fruit every month. And the leaves of the trees were for the healing of the nation. And there shall no one more curse, for the throne of God, of the Lamb, to be in it, and his servants shall serve him. And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and there need no candles, neither light of the sun. For the Lord God giveth the light, and they shall reign forever and forever. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
I will be reading Isaiah chapter 42, verses 5 through 23. Thus said God the Lord, who created the heavens and stretched them out, who spread out the earth and what it brings forth, who gave breath to the people upon it, and life to those who walk thereon. I, the Lord, in my grace have summoned you, and I have grasped you by the hand. I created you and appointed you, a covenant people, a light of nations, opening eyes deprived of light, rescuing prisoners from confinement, from the dungeon, those who sit in darkness. I am the Lord, that is my name. I will not yield my glory to another, nor my renown to idols. Verse 9. See, the things once predicted have come, and now I foretell new things, announced to you ere they sprout up. Sing to the Lord a new song, his praise from the ends of the earth. You who sail the sea, and you creatures in it, you coastlands and their inhabitants. Let the desert and its towns cry aloud. the villages where Kedar dwells. Let Selah's inhabitants shout, call out from the peaks of the mountains. Let them do honor to the Lord and tell his glory to the coastlands. The Lord goes forth like a warrior, like a fighter. He whips up his rage. He yells. He roars loud. He charges upon his enemies. I have kept silent far too long, kept still and restrained myself. Now I will scream like a woman in labor. I will pant and I will gasp. Hills and heights will I scorch, cause all their green to wither. I will turn rivers into isles and dry the marshes up. I will lead the blind by a road they did not know, and I will make them walk by paths they never knew. I will turn darkness before them to light, rough places into level ground. These are the promises. I will keep them without fail. Driven back and utterly shamed shall be those who trust in an image, those who say to idols, you are our gods. Listen, you who are deaf, you blind ones, look up and see. Who is so blind as my servant, so deaf as the messenger I send? Who is so blind as the chosen one, so blind as the servant of the Lord? Seeing many things, he gives no heed. With ears open, he hears nothing. The Lord desires his servant's vindication, that he may magnify and glorify his teaching. Yet it is a people plundered and despoiled. All of them are trapped in holes, imprisoned in dungeons. They are given over to plunder with none to rescue them, to despoilment with none to say, give back. If only you would listen to this, attend and give heed from now on. Renee?
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Continuing at verse 24. Who was it? Who was it gave Jacob over to despoilment and Israel to plunder? Surely Yahweh against whom they sinned, and whose ways they would not walk, and whose teachings they would not obey. So he poured out wrath upon them, his anger and the fury of war. It blazed upon them all about, but they heeded not. It burned among them, but they gave it no thought. 43 verse 1. But now thus saith Yahweh, who created you, O Jacob, who formed you, O Israel. Fear not, for I will redeem you. I have singled you out by name. You are mine.
Hey.
When you pass through the water, I will be with
Hallelujah.
you. Through streams, they shall not overwhelm you.
Yes.
When you walk through fire, you will not be scorched. Through flame, it shall not burn you. For I, Yahweh, am your Elohim, the Holy One of Israel, your Savior. I give Egypt as a ransom for you, Ethiopia and Saba in exchange for you, because you are precious to me, and honest, and I love you. I give men in exchange for you, and peoples in your stead. Fear not, for I am with you. I will bring you your folk from the east, and will gather you out of the west. I will say to the north, give back, and to the south, do not withhold. Bring my sons from afar, and my daughters from the ends of the earth, all who are linked to my name, whom I have created, formed and made for my glory, setting free that people, blind though it has eyes, and deaf though it has ears. All the nations assemble as one. The people gather. Who among them declared this? Foretold to us the things that have happened? Let them produce their witnesses and be vindicated, that men hearing them may say it is true. Verse 10. My witnesses are you,
Yes.
declares Yahweh.
Yes.
My servant whom I have chosen, to the end that you may take thought and believe in me, and understand that I am He. Before me no El was formed, and after me none shall exist.
Hallelujah.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Who is Satan? There's a midrash that teaches that the reason for the destruction of the previous world was that of the angel Hell, light bearer. Ezekiel 28:12-19 is also quoted to show that this angel had his sanctuary on earth in an earlier creation. Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre and say to him, this is what the Lord Hashem says. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom, and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you, ruby, topaz, and emerald, chrysolite, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as the guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the consecrated mount of God, Zion. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and I expelled you. O guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones, your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. By your many sins in this honest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you. And I reduced you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who were watching. All the nations who knew you are appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end and will be no more. This text, however, does not speak of when the fall of this angel happened. Neither does it constitute proof of the existence of a previous creation. There is clear proof in the messianic writings of the fall of some of God's angels. Compare with 2 Peter 2:4, 1 Corinthians 6:3, and Jude 6. In Isaiah 4:12-15, it is written, how you have fallen from heaven, Hell, son of the dawn. You have been cast down to the earth. You who once laid low the nations, you said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of the sacred mountain. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the grave, to the depths of the pit. Here the prophet Isaiah is speaking about the rebellion against the eternal by the king of Babylon. But the text can also be understood on the drash level as a clear reference to the principality behind this king. When this angel tried to reach the highest position and set his throne there to take control of creation and thus become like the Most High, he was cast out like a flash of lightning. Compare with Luke 10:18. And the other angels that followed him in his rebellion fell with him. Compare with Revelations 12:4 and 9. The final destination of the rebellious fallen angels will be the lake of fire. Compare with Matthew 25:41 and Revelation 20:10. The scriptures are, however, not clear-cut about when this fall in the angelic realm took place. Even so, it is clear that it happened before Genesis chapter 3, where there is a reference to the old serpent that deceived the woman and caused her to sin. The fall of man was a result of the fall that had already taken place in the spirit world. A midrash teaches that an angel by the name of Samuel, who was the great master among the angels, came down to the earth and found the cleverest animal, the snake, and possessed it. Through the snake, he taught men to do evil. Another midrash teaches that this Samuel will be cast out from his place in heaven because of sin. According to this scripture, this rebellious and fallen angel is called Satan. That's the title. Compare with 1 Chronicles 21:1. The word Satan means enemy, opponent, adversary, rival, antagonist. Compare with 1 Kings 11:25. Accuser, slanderer, backbiter. Compare with Job 1:6-12 in Zechariah 3:1. The Greek translation of the word Satan is diabolos, which means accuser, slanderer, backbiter, compared with Revelation 12:10. The scripture gives us reason to believe that God is not the source of evil, but this fallen angel is, as it is written in Ezekiel 28:15 through 16:8. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence and you sinned. Falsehood does not come from God, for he is only light, as it is written in 1 John 1:5b. God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. Messiah Yeshua said that Satan is the father of lies, meaning the origin of lies, as it is written in John 8:44. You are of your father the devil, and you want to do the lusts of your father. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaks a lie, he speaks from his own, for he is a liar and the father of lies. In 1 John 3:8 it is written, He who does what is sinful is of the devil, because the devil has been sinning from the beginning. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the devil's work. Here it is written that Satan is a murderer and has sinned from the beginning. This helps us understand that his sin began at the beginning of the work of creation. In James 1:13, 16 through 17, it is written, Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, and he himself tempts no one. Do not be deceived, my beloved brethren. Every good endowment and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shifting shadow. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Spiritual and physical wars. Genesis 1:1 to 6:8, Isaiah 42:5 to 43:11, and John 1:1 through 5. The timelessness of Torah proves itself once again as we begin yet another Torah cycle of learning from its pages. The scriptures I would like to look at for this week's parashah of Genesis contain the basics of our relationships with Yahweh and with the world. In fact, I believe the information given to us in these few passages contain the dividing lines, or better said, the pinnacle of division between the spiritual man and the sensual man. We hear a lot today in science fiction, futuristic television programming about parallel worlds. Worlds that duplicate planet Earth but exist in other galaxies in distant parts of the universe. The concept may seem far-fetched and out of touch with reality, a mere figment, the ingenuity of some screenplay writer's runaway imagination. What is it? Yahweh created man to be a spiritual being. Thus, he was created to possess the likeness of his creator, himself a spiritual being. Yet man is also physical. Here's where I believe it gets interesting. The serpent, as we all know, represents Hasatan, the devil. He too is a spiritual being. Yet in Genesis we find him also manifested in the physical in the form of a snake. Therefore, what we have when all is said and done are two spiritual entities, man representing the image of God and the serpent representing the image of Hasatan, and they are both interacting in the physical, sensual plane. The conflict that we're being introduced here is between Eve and the serpent is physical, but the actual battle and ultimate outcome is taking place and decided in the parallel spiritual world. Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any animal in the field which Yahweh God had made. He said to the woman, Yes, as God said, you shall not eat of any tree of the garden. The woman said to the serpent, Of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, You shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. The serpent said to the woman, You won't surely die. For God knows that in the day you eat, your eyes will be open. You will be as God, knowing good and evil. When the woman saw that the tree was when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eye, and that the tree was to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit of it and ate. She gave some to her husband with her, and he ate. Both their eyes were opened, and they knew that they were naked. They sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. They heard the voice of Yahweh God walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and the Ishmael and his wife hid themselves from the presence of Yahweh God among the trees of the garden. Think about this for a moment. Yahweh told us that he visits the iniquities of the fathers upon their children to the third and fourth generation. Deuteronomy 5:9. This is obviously a spiritual transfer which manifests itself in physical lives of succeeding generations. However, whatever it is that will be happening to a child or the children of the future generation in the physical would have to exist in a parallel time and generation in the spiritual in order for it to manifest itself in that particular future generation. What I'm saying, therefore, is that everything that happens on earth in the physical is taking place at the same time in the heavens in the spiritual. Take, for example, the plagues in Egypt. This was a battle we know between the God of Israel and the demon gods of Egypt. Then there's a battle between Benai, children of Israel, and the Canaanites. Once again, a battle against the God of Israel and the demon gods of the Canaanites. There's a conflict taking place on a regular basis in the spiritual of your soul and my soul. This is a battle being pictured right here in our parashah Genesis. Eve ate from the tree. Does Yahweh then lose spiritual battles? Well, obviously from the scriptural passages I've chosen to comment on above, he does. However, the same battle which tells us that a spiritual battle is lost to Hasatan, a battle that manifested itself in the physical by Eve and Adam's disobedience, also tells us the war was won in the spiritual, which was also manifested itself in the physical at the end and at the death and resurrection of Yeshua HaMashiach. Baruch Yahweh, praise Yahweh God. As the man of God caused a spiritual and physical battle to be lost, the man of heaven caused a physical and spiritual war to be won. The first battle for our souls began in the spiritual and it ended in defeat in the physical. The last battle for our souls begins in the physical and ended in victory in the spiritual. 1 Corinthians 15:45. And so it is written, the first man Adam was made a living soul. The last Adam was made a quickening spirit. Howbeit, that was not first which is spiritual, but that which is natural, and afterwards that which is spiritual. The first man is of the earth, earthly. The second man is the Lord from heaven. And as the earthly, such as they also that are earthly. And as the heavenly, such as they also that are heavenly. And as we have borne the image of the earthly, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly. If you have not already done so, please receive Yahweh, what Yahweh has done for you through Mashiach Yeshua. He has liberated your soul. Invite Yeshua HaMashiach into your heart and life today. Deuteronomy 30:19. I call heaven and earth to witness against you this day that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Therefore choose life, that you may live, you and your seed. Spiritual and physical wars. Shabbat Shalom.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So we give God all the glory. We give him all the praise.
How much do we give him?
All
okay.
all the honor and
Make sure.
all
Come on
praise.
now.
Hallelujah. Because he's an awesome
Thank you,
God.
Lord.
Awesome God.
Praise his name. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Thank you,
Hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Psalm 119, 105. Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Hallelujah. Let's give God some praise.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise his name. Torah life, come on. Torah life is here. T-O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Torah life, come on. Torah life is here. From Moses, the prophets, the Psalms to the Gospels, it's a set apart life. Walk as Yeshua's apostles. You read it before, but you never heard it like this. People mindset revealed, true intentions, cause the Sunday Sabbath is not just alone. The peace of Yahweh, ability that makes the word is with you. Obey, so put away your idols and cleanse up. Repent of your sin, you'll turn it back. You would wait and pray, and then would give in. Yeah. O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Torah life, come on. Torah life is here. T-O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Jewish thing, separated and distinguished as the people of Yah. Shema, listen to his top. Check out the dietary laws in Leviticus 11. What is food for you? Read verses 1 through 47. This is what God commands. Don't take away your attitude. Revelation 22:18 through 19. I pray to come through. Yeah. O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Torah life, come on. Torah life. T-O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Torah life, come on. Torah life. Leviticus 23, 1 through 44. Holy convocations. I'm talking the feast of the Lord, the Sabbath, Passover, and unleavened bread. First fruits, priest, the least man is what it says. At the feast, the trumpet, you hear the shofar blow. The day the atonement tabernacles, keep your face aglow. To keep God's commandments and live that Torah life. Walking blessings and not curtains, shine forth this light. Yeah, O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Torah life, come on. Torah life, yeah. T-O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Torah life, come on. Torah life, yeah. T-O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Torah life, come on. Torah life, yeah. T-O-R-A-H-L-I-F-E. Torah life, come on. Torah life, yeah.
All right, all right. That's what it's about.
Hallelujah.
That's what it's about.
And praise.
Oh my God, I can't believe he did that song. Look, I can't believe he did that song. Okay, I talk a lot. You can be seated. I talk a lot to myself in the car. Okay? And the conversation that I was having with self, okay, was the fact that how many times do people ask you, what are you? Okay, what are you? Okay, are you Jewish? Okay, are you Jewish? And sometimes things rise up. Let me say something. Things rise up. Oh no, I'm not Jewish. Okay, God's been dealing with me about that too. All right, or I'm a Hebrew, or I'm an Israelite, and Yah, impressed upon me. That's not what you are. You are a Torah observant believer in Yeshua HaMashiach.
Amen.
When people ask you what you are, it is to put you in a box so that they know how to deal with you, so that they know how to contain you, so that they know how big the bars are if you can reach in and scratch their eyes out or something. You understand what I'm saying? It's to put you in a box of their limited understanding. So if someone says, I'm Catholic, then I know how to deal with you as a Catholic, what you believe in. If someone says, I'm a Baptist, okay, or I'm Pentecostal, or this, they know how to deal with you. They don't know how to deal with you when you say, I'm a Torah observant believer in Yeshua HaMashiach. I don't have a box for that.
Amen.
You understand what I'm saying? So it is not, and in the conversation, God is my witness. I said, I don't have a religion, I have a lifestyle.
Amen.
A lifestyle. So to hear him sing that song about Torah life, maybe I wasn't talking to myself. Okay? You were there all along, Lord, okay? But that's it. We have a Torah lifestyle. We have a Torah lifestyle. However, let me say something about the names that I gave. Especially when someone says, are you Jewish? Okay? And something kind of rises up and you be careful of that.
Yes.
Because that potentially, and I see this a lot, okay, potentially can be an anti-Semitic spirit within you that you don't even realize you have. Okay, because Jewish simply means, okay, once again, it was a name that they gave to those who were in the southern kingdom of Judah when, once again, Babylon came down. Like people will say, well, that's the name that the pagans gave them. Well, Christians was the name. Christians was the name that pagans gave them, so you don't have a problem with that. Okay, but let the truth be true. Those who were Jews in the Bible were those who were, first of all, considered from the southern kingdom. And when we study the Bible historically, remember there were, after Solomon, the kingdom was divided into two parts. The northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom was called Israel. The southern kingdom was called Judah. Israel, another name in the Bible for the kingdom of Israel, is also Ephraim. Okay? And another name, once again, for the southern kingdom would have been Judah. All right? But that kingdom mainly composed of, yes, Judah, Levi, a little bit of Benjamin. The northern kingdom, the other 10 tribes. You understand? After Assyria came in and busted up the northern kingdom, refugees from the northern kingdom, the other 10 tribes, came into the southern kingdom. At that point, they were considered Jews. So Jews can be a term that are used for all of the tribes at one particular time. All right, now, when someone says Jewish, remember, Judaism is a religion also, the same way Christianity is a religion, okay, also. Being Jewish does not mean you are Torah observant. Right. You understand what I'm saying? I know more Jews that eat shrimp, pork, and everything. At my particular group, when you want to come over, what are you serving, Gary? Oh, we're going to have some spare ribs, a lobster, and when you ask it, Gary, didn't you just tell me you were doing a Passover Seder? You know, it's like, come on now. That doesn't mean, don't allow people to put you in a box. However, once again, like I say, when you hear the term Jewish and something rises up in you, you need to ask God to identify what that is. Okay, because understand something. It is not that if you are born, okay, a Jew, everything is okay. You got to be a believer in Yeshua HaMashiach. We are supposed to be conforming and transforming into his very image, right? So if we are conforming and transforming into his very image, what tribe is he from? Okay, what does the Bible say in the end times? Okay, Ezekiel 44, not Ezekiel 44, around Ezekiel 47. He says that the stranger that dwells within you, whatever tribe he chooses to dwell in, you give him an equal share. So if we are being conformed and transformed into the very image of Yeshua, what tribe is he from? Judah. So what does that make you then? Okay. Okay. All right, end the story. Okay, so however that makes you feel, just put it in your little box that you put inside of yourself. But technically, we are Torah observant believers in Yeshua HaMashiach. Now, however, what box you want to put that in, I'm not going to put myself in a box. Okay? And you don't put yourself in a box for one reason. This week's Torah portion. What did Yah tell Adam to do? And by Adam, I mean Adam and his wife, because they were both considered Adam. All right? He told them to go where? Into all the earth. Take dominion. So why do you want to put yourself in one little box? Okay? Because that box that people put you in, that means that this is all the authority that I will allow you to have in my life. Based upon, when people put things in a box, they have many different boxes to put different things in, right? You see what I'm saying? It's the same with religion. Okay, when once again they put you in a box, then it's very easy to go to the internet and say, what does this box believe in? You understand? That's what people, you want to know what someone believes in. You want to know what a Jehovah's Witness believes in. You want to know what someone in Hinduism believes in or whatever. You can go Google that particular term and certain things are going to come up. You understand what I'm saying? But when someone says they're a Torah observant believer, Torah is God's teaching and instruction. We see with the Torah portion that I gave you this week, okay, when you look at it, you go from Genesis 1 all the way through what? Revelation 22. So Torah or light, okay, begins at Genesis 1 and ends with the last verse of Revelation chapter 22, whatever verse that particular is. You understand? So stop putting your own self in a box trying to figure out what you are. Okay? Your Torah is from Genesis 1 all the way through Revelation 22. You are a Torah observant believer. In other words, whatever instruction Yah gives me is the instruction I am going to do. Just like the other one when I'm here and I'm writing my notes and everything, and it's like, God, this is too much. It's too much to go over, okay, in one class. So how do you want me to teach this? And I'm walking back, and I'm really travailing about this. And then I hear, tell them, and I don't know who this is for, flat belly enzymes probiotics. So whatever conversation you were having with yourself today about something, flat belly enzymes probiotics is the answer. And it's like, really? Okay, I'm trying to tell them this. Now, I had to go into, I usually don't go into the store on today, but I had to get something. It was kind of an emergency situation. So I'm walking down the aisle, and there is a couple and one of the salespeople or whatever she is there, and they were talking about kombucha. And so I listened to the conversation as I'm going past, and I hear, well, what do you drink this for and all of this? And the Lord reminded me of the conversation. Flat belly enzymes probiotics. So I'm just my mouth hanging open as I'm walking past them. I couldn't even say anything, okay, because I was so astounded at the fact that I get this message, I go someplace, and they are talking about the very thing that I heard in my spirit, the conversation that someone was having. You understand what I'm saying? Sometimes God will do certain things like that to let you know He hears you. But another thing to understand, sometimes God will talk to you about something that is completely unrelated to what you are praying about. Okay? You ever have that? You're talking to somebody and then they go off on a tangent somewhere and you try to figure out, are they crazy? This is not what the conversation was. Okay? You get aggravated at that because you want to steer them back to what your conversation. But see, God is above all of that. His ways are not our ways. His thoughts are so far above our thoughts. Sometimes He will do something like that because the Bible clearly says He chooses the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. To confound the wise. You understand? So just listen, okay, to that voice. Listen. All right, we're going to be in Genesis chapter, okay, primarily Genesis 1 through 3. I'm going to give a lot of different tidbits and see where we wind up with this. Some of this is going to be very elementary. I've never taught it like this before, so please bear with me. All right, in the beginning, let's go. And in the King James Version, it says in the beginning. But in the Tanakh, if you have the Tanakh, when God began to create the heavens and the earth. Okay? When God began to create the heavens and the earth being unformed and void with darkness over the surface of the deep and a wind from God sweeping over the water. Okay, so the word translated created is bara. Okay, it's the word bara. And I wish, let me get this up here. I have too many Bibles up here today. Okay, this is why it's important, okay, to learn how to read Hebrew. Because I had to have both my Bibles when I'm looking at something and they start going into Hebrew and teaching such and such. I got to be able to take that and go look at it myself. I don't take just because you said it, okay, that's the way that it is. I'm going to study it for myself. Okay. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. When God began to create the heavens and the earth being unformed and void. Once again, that word is the word bara. This is why we originally, if you remember, got this Tanakh, the one with the Hebrew English in it. Because if we were using that one right now, I would take you over to the second word, which is the word bara, so that you could see that and learn it for yourself. Now, that word is found about 50 times in the scriptures. However, That word bara refers to the production of something that had not previously existed. So it is creating something out of nothing. Something out of nothing. It speaks about bringing something into existence. And in the strictest sense of the word, only the Creator can do what? Create. He's the only one that can create. All right. He can only make something begin to exist that never existed before. If we create a cake, we're using flour, we're using all of those things, okay? So we don't really create in that particular sense of the word. The expression create out of nothing is a way of trying to express that concept. Okay, so to literally create something out of nothing, there truly has to be nothing. Okay, nothing there. All right, so nothing expresses that as that concept as completely as that particular word. All right, before he created, it all existed where? Where do you think it existed?
Before he created it?
Before he created it, where did creation first exist? In his mind. Very good. Okay, in his mind. These are spiritual principles that you need to understand. That's why, okay, those particular articles that I chose today are what we are really going to go and focus on. So the first thing, creation begin in the mind of God. Do I have any people here who are made in the image of God? Okay, so once again, a lot of things that you do begin as a what? Thought. Okay, as a thought. However a man thinketh, so is he. Okay, so why do you think so many times the enemy tries to get into your thoughts? Okay, you understand what I'm saying? You need to be able to recognize certain things within yourself. How God speaks to you and how the enemy speaks to you. You're made in the image of God. God began to create based upon a thought in his mind. And that thought in his mind was the end product. What do you think an architect does? He will draw an entire building that he sees in his mind, and then he finds somebody to build it. The one who built it has to follow the design of the one who created the design from his mind. Everything that you see here, the room that you are in, the chair that you are on, started in somebody's mind first, and then they found somebody who could make it according to the design, and everything that God created had a purpose. You understand what I'm saying? Okay, so if you are made in the image of Yah, always remember, it started in his mind with the end result in mind. Okay, you've got to be able to see that end result. That's why in Genesis chapter 11 that we'll get to, the Tower of Babel, whatever they have in their mind to do, they will do it. Number one, why? Because man was created in the image of? How did God begin to create? Where did that creation first begin? In their mind. Okay. God is in perfect agreement with himself. Always remember, he's in perfect agreement with himself. So what does that tell you that you should be in? Perfect agreement with yourself. Because a double-minded man is what? Unstable. You understand these biblical principles? Too often the reason that you do not bring something to completion is because you are not in agreement with yourself. Let me tell you something. You wake up hungry in the middle of the night, you will get up out of bed, go to the refrigerator, and find something to eat. Whether or not you need to be doing that or not. If you put your mind, whatever you put your mind to, whether that answer is yay or whether that answer is nay, when you come into agreement with yourself, you will complete it. So too often, let me ask you why a lot of times you ask for advice on something. Okay, sometimes you will ask for advice on something because you are not in agreement with yourself that that thing needs to be done. Okay, now, I'm not saying never ask for advice because the enemy will put stuff in your mind to do that doesn't need to be done. You understand what I'm saying? But very often we ask for advice because we want somebody to convince us to do it. Am I right? Okay. We're looking for somebody to convince us and give us reasons why something needs to be done. All right. I'm trying to help you save a lot of time and a lot of effort through telling you these concepts. Okay? If I am made in the image of God, I know things that God is going to give me, He's going to put in my mind first. Now, He is the only one that can create something out of nothing. But God will begin whatever He puts and gives me vision to do, there will be provision for it to get done. You understand what I'm saying? Provision for it to get done. All right, so we know that in Hebrews 11:3, all right, by faith we understand that the universe has been framed by the word of God, so that what is seen has not been made out of things which are visible. Old Testament, New Testament confirming that, okay? So everything visible came from what? The invisible. Visible things are the result of invisible things. Everything that happens in the visible world is a result of what first happened in the invisible world. Okay? Everyone understand that, okay? So, in the beginning, God, Elohim, created. And this is where people get freaky. Okay, a lot of times. This is where people develop a doctrine of the Trinity and all of that because of the word Elohim. So the Hebrew word Elohim is the plural form of Eloah, which means mighty. It comes from El, which means mighty, powerful, might and strength. Eloah, El also are translated as God within the scriptures. That's why sometimes I get a stickler, okay, for if you're going to change the word in English, you need to see what that word is in Hebrew. Because very often it is talking about an attribute and it doesn't always mean Elohim. Because when referring to God, Elohim is a particular attribute that He may have. Okay, so it's important to understand that. So those three words, El, Eloah, Elohim, are used as synonymous expressions when it comes to our Creator, whose personal name is Yahweh. All right? Those words like El is found about 200 times, okay, in the scriptures, okay, and is referring to the Creator almost all the times that you see it. A couple of times it means might, okay, it can mean a mighty one, okay. The plural form of El is Elim, which never refers to the Creator, but to other mighty creatures. That's why I'm saying, just because you see God, okay, in the Bible doesn't mean it's referring to our God. That's why you study to show yourself approved, okay? Because it can also be used to describe pagan idols. All right? Pagan idols. It depends upon the context. The word Eloah is found about 56 times, mainly in the book of Job. And it's only found twice in, okay, say a Jewish Chumash, which is the Torah. All right? The plural form of Eloah is Elohim. And that is found about 2,600 times in the scripture. You think someone says something 2,600 times, it kind of wants you to know what it means. Okay, guys? Okay? And that word is not a personal name, but it is a title. Elohim is a title. And it is an attribute that expresses might and judgment. You see that word first used in Genesis 1. He is doing His might and judgment with regards to what? Creation. Okay, that's why I always tell you, please pay attention when all of a sudden you switch up from Yahweh to God by itself. There is an attribute that he is trying to tell you about. And that attribute, once again, it expresses his might. It also expresses judgment. It's very important to understand judgment, all right, as well as creator. So when you see that word, there's something being created. There's something, okay, that is extolling his might. Or it could also be in judgment. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Okay, so we need to understand that. However, Elohim can also be used to describe angels. Okay, you can look at that in Psalm 8:5. Also pagan gods, okay, at times. All right, Moses received the title Elohim. Okay, and you can look in Exodus 4, verse 16, Exodus 7, verse 1 for that. And the judges, now here's another one. The judges in Israel were also called Elohim. You understand what I'm saying? So you need to pay attention to the context, which is one reason why, okay, I want you to study the Hebrew. All right, I want you to go back through and refresh yourself with writing it, okay, and being able to recognize it. And once again, use your Hebrew English Bible, okay, with that. All right. And so anyway, now, the fact that the word Elohim is in its plural form does not mean it's referring to several people or an entity of personalities, okay? Because it is through that word, God, okay, Elohim, that they sort of try to substantiate the Trinitarian doctrine. You understand what I'm saying? So you need to know how to dispute things like that. All right. We can see that in the case with Moses, who was not more than one person, who was given the task of being what? Elohim before the king of Egypt. You understand what I'm saying? I will make you a god to Pharaoh. So Moses didn't all of a sudden split up and become, okay, one Moses for the rivers turning to blood, another Moses for this one, another one. That would have been a mess. Okay, so that Elohim being one. The expression Elohim now has to do with enormous might and the sum of all power, the power needed to accomplish his purposes. So when you see Elohim, he getting ready to either jack something up, okay, or create something, all right? So the expression Elohim is connected to all the unlimited and eternal powers. In other words, the word Elohim can be translated as the highest ruler or the highest judge. The highest judge. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? The attribute Elohim is intimately related to his attribute of righteousness, which is why Abraham knew him that way as a righteous God, as a righteous judge. Okay, that's, remember. So, does that kind of clarify why, once again, Abraham appealed to him like that with Sodom and Gomorrah? Shall not the judge of all the earth. So he was responding to him, okay, once again, as that righteous judge who has the power and authority to destroy, but based upon his attribute of righteousness. Well, God, you want to do this so that the righteous and the wicked get destroyed together so that there is no difference? Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? When you are in, listen, when you are in the midst of great wickedness, people, and you see the righteous suffering because of the wickedness, this is the time to make your appeal to the highest court of the universe. In the same way that Abraham did. Shall not the judge of all the earth do right? Your people are suffering. Okay, rule, plead my cause, O Lord. That Psalm number 35 is the most powerful psalm. Plead my cause, O Lord, with them that strive with me, and fight against them that fight against me. Come on now. All right. So, anyway, when we get to Bereshit, it says Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Now, here's the whole thing. The verb created in that case is not conjugated in the plural. It's conjugated in the singular. You see, and those are things you have to know. So when people are telling you Elohim, and that means three gods, so therefore wrong. Wrong. Let me stop you with the second word in the Bible. Okay, the second word in the Bible disproves your theory. Bereshit bara. We haven't even gotten to God yet. You already wrong. Okay, you already wrong. Okay. So anyway. It also teaches us that Elohim is not to be understood as several gods or a number of people or a unified entity of personalities. Come on now. But only as one. How many fingers do I have up? One. How do you know that? Because you see in it. Okay, one. Okay? So that is the most important confession, that if you are a practicing believer, is what? Shema, say it with me. Shema Israel. Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Echad, or Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our Elohim. Yahweh is one. He is one. Okay? That's Deuteronomy 6:4. Okay? So, in the beginning, God created the heavens. The word that is translated as heavens is Shamayim. Now, that word is written in a multiple form. Okay? And in Hebrew, there are different ways of expressing amounts. Singular, dual, or plural. The dual form is referring to two, a pair. In this case, Shamayim speaks of a pair of heavens. First of all, the invisible heaven, and then the visible heaven, as it is written. Okay, Deuteronomy 10:14. Behold, unto Yahweh thy Elohim belong the heaven and the heaven of heavens, the earth with all that is therein. Okay, that was Deuteronomy 10:14. All right, so the word Shamayim, okay, automatically hints that there are more than two heavens. All right, Deuteronomy speaks of two heavens in a dual form. Okay, two heavens of the two heavens in a dual form as well. In 2 Corinthians 12, verses 2 through 4, Paul, this is why it's so important, Old Testament, New Testament, so that you know what Paul was teaching. Okay, remember this. Remember how he said he had been in paradise in the third heaven? Okay, he goes, I know a man in Messiah who 14 years ago, whether in the body I do not know, or out of the body I do not know. God knows. Such a one was caught up to the third heaven. And I know that such a one, whether in body or separate from the body, I do not know, God knows, was caught up into paradise and heard unspeakable spoken words which a man is not permitted to speak. Okay? So there are many different words that in the Talmud also that are related to heaven. I'm not going to go into, all of that. But just know that Paul talks about another heaven besides just the one that we do. Also, if you're reading the Apocrypha, once again, the book of Enoch. Enoch travels through 7 heavens. Okay, it so happens that in the Talmud there are also 7 heavens. Okay, so the book of Enoch travels through 7 heavens and gives a whole visual documentation of all of them. Remember how I say you use the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha is your book of Crayola, right there. Gracie, do me a favor. Can you pick up your crayons? Brad, can you shine that over? Hold the crayons up.
Hold it up. Hold it up.
Hold it up. Okay, she got a box of Crayola crayons right there. That's like what the Apocrypha does. It colors in the lines. Thank you, Gracie. Give her a hand. Okay. All right. All right. So we have that. All right. Now, verse number 2. We haven't even gotten to verse number 2 yet. The earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and a wind from God sweeping over the water. Understand something. You could spend years in just Genesis 1 by itself. But if you do not have an understanding of how God and why God forms things the way he does, you will not have an understanding of how he's going to do it for you. You understand what I'm saying? This is the blue plate. This tells you how God creates. So that's why we spend a lot of time on concepts, because he's already telling us, if you want something from me, these are the steps that I do it in. Okay, first step, he began to create the heavens and the earth. We already know, okay, there must be a heaven, spiritual, there must be an earth, physical. What does that tell you? The two have to be in agreement with each other before anything can be done. Okay, so, all right, he, once again, let me go backwards a little bit. Okay, when he created the two heavens and the earth, the word earth is eretz. Eretz. Okay, now very often you will hear eretz in regards to the land of Israel. Okay, you've heard that. It's also referring to the earth, which is a globe. Okay, it can be the land, the ground, terrain, earth, in contrast to the sea. All right. We know it could be a land, a nation, a territory, which is limited to the dry area of that particular place. And then very often it can be the promised land, the land of Israel. You need to look at the context of what he is talking about to understand what it is. Verse 2, now the earth was without order and empty. Darkness was on the face of the deep, or surface of the deep. God's breath was hovering over the surface of the waters. The word translated, okay, once again, being unformed and void is the word, or without order, is tohu. So the first thing you see, the earth was in chaos. That word tohu, okay, actually means chaos, an unformed mass, disorder, confusion, an emptiness, a vacuum, worthlessness, futility, a wilderness, a desert. You understand why I want to keep you guys out of the wilderness? You stay in the wilderness for a certain period of time after receiving the Torah. Any time more than that, I'm not saying get rid of the Torah. I'm saying get out of the wilderness. Okay, you will descend into chaos, okay, emptiness, and we see that when they decided to stay in the wilderness for an extra 38 years, an entire generation died. What happened when we have a nation that is victorious? All of a sudden they decide not to go in. Then we get to the book of Numbers and we see everything descend into what? Chaos, disorder, okay, rebellion against the Creator. You understand? All right, so being unformed and void, okay, once again. All right, now that word, and remember, God did not create the earth in vain. Isaiah 45:18. Get a chance to read that. Isaiah 45, okay, 18. So that word tohu is an expression of surprise and shock that when you look at it, it catches your breath. You ever look at something that was so horrible, it literally caught your breath. You could not believe something like that, okay, could happen. All right. And so that's how the statement of that a particular word means. Now, according to the rabbis, okay, the narration in Genesis is a result of divine judgment over an earlier world which was broken. The term tohu vavohu only exists in two other verses in the Hebrew text, and that's Isaiah chapter 34, verse 11. So you get a chance to read that. Isaiah 34:11, and Jeremiah chapters 4, verses 23 through 26. Okay? There is also an interpretation in the New Testament based on those, which teaches that the state of without order and empty caused by a divine act of judgment over sin. Did we not read that in 2 Peter 3? Know this first, that in the last days mockers will come with mockery, following after their own lust, saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all remains is as it was from the beginning of creation. He goes on to say, for when they wish this, it escapes their notice that the heavens existed long ago, and the earth out of water and through water was established by the word of God, through which the world at that time was utterly ruined. So the New Testament refers to, this is not his first attempt at making this thing right. Okay? And it even gets to, we do know it is possible that happens, because what happens in Revelation 21 and 22? Behold, a new heaven and a new earth. Here we go again. Okay? Okay, but the difference between that time and this time is the fact that the devil who deceived during this time will be destroyed forever. Okay, and those, once again, we look at the devil and blame him. But what happened when we see in the book of Revelation, chapter 20, that the devil was locked up for 1,000 years? Man still did wrong. Man still did wrong. Guess where you see that theory expounded upon today? In a movie. Wonder Woman. You missed it.
Oh, yes.
You missed it. How she's going after Ares. And after she kills him, she expected everything to stop and everyone loved We Are the World, Barney, and all that kind of stuff. Utopia. And it wasn't that way. And they had to explain to her, it is just the nature of man to do wickedness. See, this is why I say, when you read the Bible, a lot of times, pay attention to the indoctrination that is coming out of these movies. Star Trek is a very spiritual program. It really is. There are a lot of new age things in there, and you need to understand the subtleties. Okay, now in the church, we would always say, oh, don't look at this, it'll pollute you. It'll do this, it'll do that. Why are you so scared?
Yes.
Okay, you need to know how to discern this, because your kids don't have to go to the movies to be perverted today. They can go to school.
Right, exactly.
They can go right to school to be perverted today. And you willfully send them to school for 40 hours a week, and then we want to bring them for an hour and a half and pray God, okay, get the fire hose. Okay. All right, so we need to understand that. That's why it's important for them to know the difference and be able to discern. They don't have to understand. They just have to come to you and say, I want to talk to you about something. This is something I saw, and something in me didn't feel it was right. And you be able to explain to them through the Word of God why it wasn't. But they're not going to know that unless they're taught. Okay, unless they're taught. All right? So anyway, we see that this text says that the world which existed was earlier destroyed by water, and the heavens and the earth which exist now are being kept for the fire. The fire. That's why, Stephanie, if you're still online, you sent me a thing on the super volcano at Yellowstone. I have seen that already a couple of days. You guys know me. I followed the volcanoes for years. Ever since we were in Calvary, I used to teach about the super volcanoes at Yellowstone. Yellowstone isn't the problem, guys. There is a super volcano in Italy that they are worried about, because it's all of a sudden picked up activity and can affect Yellowstone and all the other volcanoes. Whoa. Okay, so that's why I say, what you can do is go to Google and do an alert for the term supervolcano. And every time something comes up about supervolcanoes, they'll send you an alert. Now, that's not to say to be scared of this or scared to that. Okay, because we are like people, give us a sign. Oh my God, the volcano's going to blow up. If it does, you won't have to worry about nothing. Okay? There's not going to be a cave you can hide in. Okay? So God says, once again, when he destroys it this time, he is destroying it by fire. The only thing you have to worry about is, are you on the right side? You understand what I'm saying? You're on the right side. You don't have to worry about it, because even the dead in Christ will rise. You understand what I'm saying? Too many Christians are afraid of dying. They're afraid of dying. And that tells me, if you're so afraid of dying, do you believe in the resurrection? Okay, do you believe in the resurrection? Okay, so anyway, that destruction is also, okay, talked about in the scriptures, okay, that Leroy read about Ezekiel, in Ezekiel 28, verses 12 through 19. Okay, when he talks about that, take up a lament for the king of Tyre, but he begins on, okay, when he's doing that, we all know that he's talking about, once again, Hasatan also. It is a veiled reference, okay, to him. All right, at that point. Also, the one in Isaiah 14 that he also read about Hillel, the son of the dawn. He was the light bearer. The light bearer. Okay, so remember that, okay, about him. Now, going to Genesis 1:3. God said, Elohim said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. Okay, now, here's something you need to understand. Okay, so we learned that one of Satan's names, Hillel, the angel of light, or the light bearer. In creation, where does God create the light from? Pull the light from? What does the scripture say?
God said, let there be light.
Okay, and what did he do? He separated the light from the darkness. So light he pulls out of the darkness. Understand that is one reason why Hasatan, who is dark, can transform himself into an angel of light. Remember, he was first called the angel of light who went into darkness in creation. God pulls the light out of darkness. That's why you got to be so careful. You've got to be very careful, because what you may perceive as greatness and light can really be darkness in disguise. The one thing is that if it is, it cannot remain light for long. Come on. You need to understand that. Need to be able, okay, to understand that. God calls the light good, and he separates light from darkness. Remember, creation does not begin, order does not begin to get set until chaos is removed. You define, this is light, this is dark. This is what I need, this is what is causing chaos. Get rid of that, this is what is left. Okay? So the order of creation, when you get an idea, remember it was in the, mind of God. Okay, in the mind of God. But God always kept what? The end result in mind, which is why I tell you guys to get a journal and write stuff down. To write it down. Because when it gets written down, that's when you can begin to separate the chaos from that which is not chaos. I hear all the time, well, it's in my mind. Well, if you lose your mind, there goes that idea. Okay, an architect does not go to a builder and say, we're going to build this based upon what is in my mind. No, the builder wants the what? Building, blueprint and everything. Why? Why do you want that? Because the blueprint reveals what materials are going to need to bring it to completion. It also reveals what type of workers, what skill sets, and everything. So when you keep things in your mind and don't write it down, you lose the ability to do that. Then what does the construction guy? He'll go and build it that way, then hire someone to decorate it. Now here is the architect. This is what the end product is supposed to look like. Then he has to get somebody to see that vision and make it the same way. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. Too often, okay, we get involved in chaos instead of writing down. It's just like, Ed, you want a plan, say for example, for purchasing and flipping. Purchasing and flipping. You have to have a written plan for what your goals are. If you don't, you get drawn into chaos, which will cause you to spend more resources and more time on filling up a black hole. Yeah. Whenever you are in a black hole, okay, you are pouring resources into something that is incapable of pulling out light. You've got to separate the light. That's why I will ask people, what is your plan? Before I commit my time, before I commit my resources, I'm going to ask you, what is your ultimate goal and your plan? And if you do not have one, then come back to me. I don't care how much help you need right now. You come back to me. Okay, because what happens is that you put it in a black hole, next thing you know, it's gone. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? I deal that way. Why? Because that's how I see him deal with. He had a plan. Okay? Always had a plan. Okay, going into this. All right, so we begin to see he calls the light good. He did not call darkness good. You notice that? Mm-hmm. Also, at the end of the first day, did he say, and it was good, and the evening and the morning were day one? You can't even begin, okay, to say anything is good until you begin to separate light from chaos. You understand what I'm saying? God doesn't call chaos good. Okay. And he doesn't start forming anything else until what? He separates light from darkness and does what? Gives it a name. Because once you name it, there's authority over it and purpose for it. Darkness kind of has a purpose. It has a purpose. Let's continue reading. So he calls verse 5, called the light day, the darkness he called night, and there was evening and morning a first day. When does the day begin? Evening. And morning. How does the church begin? Their days? Morning and evening, which is why they got the resurrection wrong. Which is why they got the resurrection wrong. Okay, you understand that? Okay, so the tomb was not open at the beginning of dawn of what they perceive as day, like 5 o'clock in the morning, Easter sunrise service. It was done the following day at the end of Shabbat. So if you're talking about on a Saturday, it was done on late Saturday afternoon. By the time Yeshua visits the apostles, it is the first day. Okay? Now, the church will tell you that was Sunday evening, right? The first day. However, Sunday evening would have been the second day according to that time. You understand what I'm saying? All right. So when it says at the end of the Sabbath, they were in their homes for the fear or reverence of the Jews, that is after Sabbath. That would have been Saturday evening, which is the dawn of the first day. Okay? So that's why you have to go back to creation. Why do you think the enemy doesn't want you studying Torah? He doesn't want you studying Torah because he comes and changes the times and the seasons. And it always kind of keeps you off, okay, off guard, okay, like that. Now, afterwards, we go through the rest of this, okay, and what is he doing? After he separated those, now we begin to place things in order. Okay, he brings the light out. The light is good. Who do we say the light is? Who is the light? Yeshua. Who is the darkness? Satan. They are not equal. Okay, not equal. Okay, John talks about that. Okay, and that was read in John 1st chapter verses 4 through 10. In him was life, and the life was the light of man. Okay, and it's talking about, okay, Yeshua. All right, now we know that always understand something about the concept of light and darkness. It's very easy for Satan to transform himself into an angel of light because his name was originally, okay, the shining one. Let's go to verse number 14. God said, let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate day from night. They shall serve as signs for the set times, the days, and the years. So the divine purpose of the light was to what? Divide the day from night. So what? There's supposed to be a clear distinction between darkness and light. You understand? All right? To be signs, to mark the divine appointed times, to mark days, to mark years, to be lights in the firmament, and to do what? Give light upon the earth. Light upon the earth. So he makes two great lights. Now remember, light, okay, is the word or. When it says he made two lights, it's ma'or, okay, in the Bible. And that mem very, very often is a container. That's the only way that I can put it. So he makes the sun and the moon as light, and the stars as what? Light containers. Remember, light was created, okay, and separated from darkness on the first day. So the sun, moon, and stars are light containers, just like a lantern. Okay, just like a lantern. Okay, so when it says he made two great lights, once again, the three Hebrew words used to describe the creation of everything is the word bara. We talked about that bara, which means created, gave existence to something which did not exist before. Okay, the word asa, which is used in Genesis 1:16, asa means made, completed, brought to completion, gave it its final shape. Oh, you're not hearing what I'm saying. When he's using that word, and think of it, brought to completion, he has the sun and he has the moon. The sun rules by day and the moon rules by night. But we know that the moon is a reflection of the light of the sun. And that's how it rules over darkness. Who's the sun of righteousness? So who's the moon? Who's the moon? Who's the moon? We are. Thank you. We were meant to reflect the light of the sun, to rule over darkness. The moon has no light of its own. It only gives light based upon its position to catch the reflection of the sun. You understand what I'm saying? And it goes through phases. Goes through phases. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? You know, it's why we don't understand a lot of things. Okay, the moon, okay, being the church, the bride of Christ. God set a witness of phases, 30-day phases in the earth. 29, 30-day phases. Can anyone think of one? Ladies? Oh, see, when you don't understand that, God put a witness on the earth. There are some times during that cycle that you are more fertile than other times. Everything, and when the full moon and things like that, the tide comes in. It affects all the waters on the earth. You understand what I'm saying? God puts a witness, the heavens and the earth agreeing with each other. When you do not understand how and why a woman was made, you will abuse that all the time. You will abuse it all the time, and I see that, so much. Let's get into that. All right, we're going to skip over to, I think, Genesis chapter 2 at this point. All right. Before we go there, we know once again God says, "Let us make man in our image, in the image of God made he." He is what? Singular or plural? Singular. Okay. So anyway, and the first thing after the creation, the first thing he did was to bless them, to be fruitful, to multiply. God's original intent. Wait a minute. See, if you don't get into what is God's original intent for you? To be fruitful. Remember, Yeshua is called the last Adam. So if I am being conformed and transformed into his very image, he came to seek and save that which was lost. It's not just the lost sheep of the house of Israel, but it was lost in the garden. It was lost in the garden. He comes to bring you back to that authority that was God's original intent for your life, to be fruitful, to multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it. That word subdue carries a connotation, is that if it doesn't obey you on the first time, you until it does. Okay? You mash it up, man. I need Pam to say that. You got to mash it up until it does. Okay. Okay. So anyway, let's, for time's sake, God, I could just really do this. Here's an interesting tidbit in the Hebrew. Okay, at the end of chapter 1, last verse of chapter 1, where it says, and there was evening and the morning, the 6th day. Okay, and then you go into the first part of chapter 2. There's something very interesting that starts out. All right. If you were, and this is why I say, while you saw me with the book here, counting, if you were to count Yom Shishi, okay, that's the 6th day. There's a Yud at the end of Shishi. If you count every 7 letters starting with the first part of chapter 2, you get the Yud, the Shin, the Resh, the Aleph, the Lamed, which spells the word Israel. So at the end of the 6th day, you're seeing the formation of not just Adam, but Israel, who became his what? Israel is my son. Adam is a son. So right in the Hebrew itself, you see in the what? Mind of God, the creation of Israel. That was real profound. I don't know. It may not float anybody else's boat. Okay? We go through the Sabbath. I'm not even going to go through the Sabbath, okay, this time. All right? Verse number 7, chapter 2, verse 7. Yahweh Elohim. We start seeing his personal name along with Elohim. Grace and mercy. Remember that grace and mercy is Yahweh. Okay? Elohim. Formed the man out of the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. Now here's what's funny about that word form. It's va-yitzer, va-yitzer. And what's funny about it is that when it's talking about man, God formed the man. It has, and this is why I love this book. Because I'm looking at this, wait a minute, that's not the way that word is usually spelled. Okay? Yitzer usually only has one yud. Yud, remember, is the symbol or original meaning of yud is a hand. When it says God formed, that word formed, Yitzer, usually only has one yud. But when it was referring to God forming man, it has 2. What's the word picture there? God formed the man. What did he use? His hands. 2 hands. As opposed to later when it says he formed the animals, it's only using the 1. So that tells you that God had something very special. When you use your hands, think about that. He used that to form man and form the woman with his very 2 hands. To me, that was awesome. I don't know anyone else, okay? But that was awesome. And it's certain things that are what? Revealed in the Word. There are so many secrets. When you begin to learn the Hebrew for yourself, you look and you begin, wait a minute, that's not, how come this isn't the same, spelled exactly the same? And then you break it out into the word pictures, and you get a beautiful picture of God's original intent and design. Go to verse 18. 2:18. Here we go. Yahweh Elohim said, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make a fitting helper for him. So, man was not created to be alone. You want to know what one reason? Don't you know why? Because God. He's made in the image of God. God has who surrounding him to praise him? The angels. You understand what I'm saying? The angels. So man made in the image of God. Man was never created to be alone. Woman was taken out of man to be his counterpart and to complement him. Amen. Okay, so if I'm going to be a counterpart, guess what? We're going to be doing some similar things together. You understand what I'm saying? Not total opposites. In other words, the man that I'm looking for, he's going to be able to help me achieve the things that God has given me to do. And I am going to be able to help him do the things that God has given him to do. We are naturally going to flow together, complement one another. Okay? Those are things that you look at. When you're looking at choosing a mate and everything, look at them. Once again, God in his mind always have the end result in mind. Okay, if you don't see that, a lot of times, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Okay, there should be an agreement. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be doing exactly the same thing, but you must complement each other. Who better for a man to go through about advice than his wife? That's the way God created it. Okay, so God forms. Okay, the woman, she's taken out of the man to be his counterpart and complement him. So, woman's primary purpose is to back up the man so that he can fulfill the purposes that God has given him together with her. Because once again, what did God say to the two of them? Be fruitful. Man can't be fruitful by himself. They try, and Leroy ain't having no babies out of his body. Can you imagine Leroy 9 months pregnant? Oh my God. Okay, so her primary purpose is to back him up. When the Torah speaks of having dominion, it's not expressed in the singular, but the plural. So that teaches us that man cannot have dominion by himself. He needs the help of his wife to have dominion over all kinds of creation. All right? So before the woman was made, man was placed in the garden to work and take care of it. Ladies, if he's yours, he already got a job. Okay? All right? That would save a whole lot of heartache, okay, for a lot of single women, okay, just knowing that alone. So, it's also understood that the commandments about eating all the trees and not eating the tree of knowledge of good and evil were not given to the woman, they were given directly to who? Adam, prior to the creation of the woman. Man also began having his assignment of having dominion over creation. What was the way that God gave him the ability to begin having dominion over creation? Naming. Okay, so he names, gives all names to the land, the animals, probably maybe the woman did flowers, I don't know. But I don't want to be sexist like that. That would make some people upset. Okay. So that teaches us that there are 3 things related to the function of man. Number 1, production and care of work. Okay, its expansion, its protection. If we're following a biblical model, okay, also studying and implementing the Torah. Remember, he was given the instruction first. Okay, 3, Once again, discerning and deciding over the environment. He's the one that did what? Named the animals. Okay, so another thing to note, man was already functioning in those areas without the help of the woman. However, God is the one who said that he would be good at doing it.
Not anybody else. Where's that?
He wouldn't be doing those things alone by himself. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? Because first of all, Yahweh wanted him to have many children. Man can't fulfill that vision alone. Okay? He needs a wife to help him with that assignment. Okay, so therefore Yahweh forms our bodies, ladies, specifically for bringing forth children. And so a lot of times the greatest thing, one of the great things in life, okay, all of you sexists and feminists and all this, don't get upset. Well, I don't care if you get upset with me or not. But one of the greatest things to fulfill God's calling is to marry and to bring forth children, to have a husband and all of that. Okay, sure, we can do things by ourselves. Men can do things by themselves. Women can do things by themselves. But I'm talking about the original intent of God. Original intent of God. You can't have, I don't care if you are two lesbians having a baby. You needed the man's sperm to do it.
That's right. That's right.
Come on. I don't care if you are two men who want to adopt a baby. You needed a woman's body to bring it forth. The greatest deception is still about male and female, which is God's original intent. Don't get mad at me. I don't care either way. Okay? So, in order to be a proper help for man, the woman had to be equipped in a special way. I'm not just talking about babies and all of that. The Hebrew word used, and I've taught this before, for the word help is etzer. Is etzer. Okay, the root word is azar, which means to surround. Oh, you're not hearing what I'm saying. To surround, to protect, to defend, to help, and to rescue. How we have this stuff flipped around. Man is inherently stronger. You know, even Sheena needed a Hercules. Okay? When they fought together, everybody got jacked up. Okay? You know. And it's funny, whenever they fought against each other, there was always a draw. So y'all thinking I watched a lot of Hercules. That was back in the day, okay? Back in the day, all right? But I want you to think about it. Go back in your mind to when those shows, when they fought with each other, sometimes he would seek her out and they'd go fight and jack up everybody. And then sometimes they'd get mad and fight each other and then decide, forget it. Okay, it was always a draw. Okay, however, the word, once again, surround, the root word to surround, to protect, to defend, to help, to rescue. Doesn't that sound like what goes on in a woman's womb? Okay, you understand what I'm saying? That's why the enemy makes war with the woman's womb. Because of her purpose. You understand what I'm saying? All right? Nothing degrading in that, okay? You know, but it reflects the best thing that could be had whenever there is a need. Listen, a man is less equipped than a woman for living alone. Amen.
Amen.
We need to see verses.
Now I need altar call. Some of you come up here again.
Scripture and verse for them.
I'm going to say that again. A man is less equipped than a woman for living alone. Okay, that's just the way it is. Torah teaches us that it was the man who needed the help.
Oh, no.
Look, I didn't write it. They come ahead to take his envelope out. I'm going to be watching you too. My eye is on you, okay? Okay? I got Godzilla in that bowl. Reach your hand in there if you want to. All right? Hey, but God, you read it for yourself. God looked at the man and said, it's not good for him to be alone. I will create a helper for him. All right? So that's just, see, and if we would, there's something in us that wants to resist us. If we would just submit to God and let him form it. He formed the woman. He wounded the man, but he healed them. He formed the woman, but he put two people who were healed together. Broken people don't heal each other. I'm looking for somebody broken so that you can play doctor. You usually wind up being psychiatrist, and then both of you go into the crazy house. Come on. All right, so Torah teaches that it's the man who needs help, not the woman. The word etzer, I'm going to get to that, guys. Stop levitating in your chairs over there. The word etzer is mainly found in Scripture relating to God himself. Remember, man was created in the image of... Okay, so it's that word typically is created, or rather used in Scripture referring to him. Exodus 18:4, Deuteronomy 33:7. Those are two good scriptures. The help that a woman can give, therefore, is help that comes from God himself. This is a beautiful picture. If we would just get it right and stop listening to the world to give us our standards. You understand what I'm saying? It's a beautiful picture. A humble man receives the wise advice and the help that God gives him through his wife. Remember, etzer, ayin, to see evil and deal with it. That's how she was made. She is the one who's more spiritually, discerning. Okay, now understand something. The fact that the Torah, give me about 10 minutes. The fact that the Torah teaches that the man needs help does not mean that the woman does not need the man. See, this is where feminine, I don't need you. I'm good by myself. I can do bad by myself. And usually you do.
Amen.
God will let you alone. He'll leave you alone. I can do bad by myself. So next thing you know, you're doing bad and you're alone. Out of your mouth you spoke it. Out of your mouth you spoke it.
Oh, boy.
Okay, we know, man was, remember, he had 3 areas of responsibility before the woman was formed. So that teaches us that the woman is dependent upon the man in those 3 areas. All right? Okay, woman needs financial benefit from the man's work and protection. Woman needs revelation of God's counsel. That was given to man. That's why it's so important. In the church, we have it opposite. Church full of women, no men. We want to set things right in the church. We better bring these guys to Torah.
Amen.
We better bring them to Torah. That is one reason why we concentrate on, at the youth ministry, the boys. It's not that the girls don't need help, but if you don't get the head of the house right, everything else is going to be wrong. You understand what I'm saying? If you do not teach that man Torah, everything he does with that woman is going to be wrong. Okay? So, let me see. So, we know not one of the books in the scriptures were written, well, they say not written by a woman. Even though some say that Priscilla may have been the author of Hebrews. Okay? Quite possibly. But you sure have enough books in the Bible written about women. You have enough scriptures written about women and their role in the church, and in the nation. Remember Deborah. Deborah was a judge. She was a leader over Israel, divinely appointed there by God. And what was she? A prophetess. You had many judges in Israel. There were only 2 that were prophets. One was Samuel, the other was Deborah. Male and female. Okay? Revelation comes to the man and then passed to the woman through the man. Sometimes the Lord will speak to the man through his wife. But as a rule, sometimes not. Okay? Sometimes, once again, we don't see in the Bible God speaking to the woman about the commands that he gave the man. It was his responsibility to do what? Teach them to his wife and to his children. You understand what I'm saying? All right. So we know that men need to be studying the Word of God, but we see it flipped around. We see more women, okay, in the church than men. Okay, let me ask you something. In Islam, you see more men than women. And all the men will tell you that Islam brought them order. It brought order to them. It brought order to their families and everything. Guys, that's what Torah is. Don't get mad. Don't get mad at Islam. Those who are in Torah. You need to be mad at yourself. Because what this is supposed to be bringing order to our life, but when you see the same chaos, okay, you can't attract anybody out of chaos. You can't attract people whose lives are out of order. All right? So Torah is meant to bring order. It's meant to set things right the way that they should. And let me tell you something, Christians, stop complaining about the lack of prayer in the school because there's not any prayer going on in the home because the homes are out of order. Come on. Come on. Where do you think those kids learn to pray 3 and 5 times a day? They see their daddy doing it. We want to talk about Islamic men, but how many in Torah pray that often during the day? They set aside time to pray. That's just real. That's keeping it real. There are some aspects that when somebody comes from Islam into being a believer, keep praying. Just know who you're praying. Keep being righteous. Keep having righteous standards. Keep your house in order. Don't go into the chaos that we see in the Christian church. Oh, you've been set free for chaos. Free for chaos. Okay. So we know that God created the woman once again to be a helper to the man. Okay. And that is what? Such of a prophetic picture of Messiah and the church. She comes out of the side of man. When Yeshua is crucified, they pierce him where? In his side, and out comes blood and water. Blood and water. So we see that. I think I will get into, I don't have time now to do it. Maybe this Revelation study about what happened in chapter 3. Chapter 3 is very, very, very important. One thing I want you to leave and just think about is that there was a reason why Satan came to Eve and not to Adam. And part of it is because of how she was made to be the spiritual one. And her job was to see evil and deal with it. Her purpose was to what? Surround, to protect, and everything. So the enemy came to her first because there was a specific purpose. If she's the one who's surrounding and protecting the man, what do you have to get rid of before you can conquer? Think of her as a wall. If you want to conquer a place, what do? You breach the wall. You breach the wall. Okay? And so maybe on Thursday we'll get through that. That is why that article on spiritual warfare, you have to know what is going down there because it's the same thing going down right now. Lies and deceit. People changing the word of God to mean what it is they want. God has not said. Lying on God. That's one of the first things. It was Eve who gave Satan his name as the deceiver. The serpent beguiled me. He deceived me. First use of that word deceiving. Okay, which is one reason why he hates her so much. He hates her so much. The prophecies that were given to her, okay, about the seed and everything. We're going to understand that a little bit more on Thursday. I really want to go through that, okay, during the Revelation study. Everyone stand, please. Hallelujah. Father God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, we bless your holy name. Father, you are so worthy to be praised. Father, we just want to thank you this day for all that you are doing in enlightening us, bringing light into darkness, order into chaos within our lives. Father, we ask that during this new Torah cycle, you give our eyes to see what it is you are revealing to us. You give our ears to hear your voice and discern the voice of others. And you give our heart a heart to receive your word so that we may do your will in accordance to your desire and your commandments, O Heavenly Father. Father, I thank you right now, O Heavenly Father, for the opportunity to even go through another Torah cycle, O Heavenly Father, to give you honor and glory, because we know it is the highest honor and glory to gather together, because you said wherever two or more are gathered together, you will be in the midst of them. And when we, O Heavenly Father, are opening up and reading your Torah, O Heavenly Father, it is you in the midst of us. The word becomes flesh. So we just want to thank you and praise you and give you all honor and glory in the mighty, mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Let it all be done, and let everyone say amen. Amen. Give God a hand clap. Hallelujah.